Thanksgiving canceled. No money. Mom told me. 2 days later, I saw a $5,880 withdrawal from our joint account. I said, nothing, just showed up. 38 guests, live music, full menu. My sister smirked. Your absence made it special. I smiled back. Let's make it unforgettable. Then I secured the account and made one quiet call. By the time they realized what was missing, I was already gone. A week before Thanksgiving, I got the text. Just one sentence, no punctuation, no apology. Thanksgiving's canceled this year. Just not a good time financially. It wasn't the first time. Last year, the same excuse. No turkey, no table, no family. I'd spent the day eating takeout in my apartment, watching reruns of holiday specials while Instagram lit up with my sister's posts. Matching pajamas, pumpkin pie, champagne toasts. They'd had Thanksgiving, just not with me. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't reply. I locked my phone and went on with my day. 2 days later, I got the notification. $5,880 withdrawn from the joint account I'd opened years ago. Back when I thought helping my family meant being useful. Back when I believed in shared responsibility. Mom still had access to that account. Said she needed it just in case. This wasn't just in case. I didn't ask, I didn't call, I just waited. Thanksgiving Day. I dressed in silence. Dark jeans, black sweater, old jacket. No text inviting me. No address sent, but I knew where they'd be. They always picked the same upscale rental near Willow Lake. Aesthetic for photos, my sister once said. I drove there without hesitation. The closer I got, the louder the music became. Live saxophone. I parked down the block, tucked behind an oak-lined curve, and walked the rest of the way. And there it was, the villa. White string lights cascading from the roof. A warm glow spilling out onto the lawn. Tables draped in gold linens. Guests laughing over wine. A 12-piece band playing jazzy covers of holiday classics. I counted quickly, at least 38 guests. There was a giant turkey in the center of a long banquet table, glazed to perfection, surrounded by rosemary and cranberries. Behind it, a glowing sign made of sparklers. The Millers, thankful together. Our family name on fire for everyone to see, and they canceled Thanksgiving. I stepped through this gate like a ghost. No one noticed at first. Then my sister turned mid-laugh. Her eyes locked on mine, and she smirked. "Oh, look," she said loudly, raising her wine glass. The missing guest finally made it. Honestly, your absence made the night special. There were chuckles around the table. Eyes, whispers, phones. I smiled slowly, stepped forward, took in the faces. Familiar, smug, rehearsed. Then I said, let's make it unforgettable. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, 2 taps. Remove authorized access. Confirmed. Secure account lock, withdrawals blocked. A loading screen. Then access removed. Ownership verified. I didn't even blink. I turned slightly away from the table, raised the phone to my ear, and made one call. I said only 2 words. Go ahead. Then I ended the call. Nobody noticed. They were still laughing, still raising glasses. If this were a movie, the camera would have panned behind me, capturing only my silhouette. And I didn't even sit down, because sometimes the best seat at the table is the one you pull from underneath them. It started when I was 16. Mom sat across from me at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug, eyes heavy. Just until I catch up, she'd said. You're the only one I can trust. I'll pay you back every cent. She needed help with insurance that month, and groceries, and the electric bill. I'd just gotten my first job bagging groceries at the local market. My paycheck wasn't much, but I handed it over without thinking. Because that's what you do for family, right? That promise, I'll pay you back, turned into an anthem. By 18, I was paying for her car repairs. By 20, she added herself as an authorized user on my credit card. By 22, she had access to the account I'd opened to save for grad school. She never asked twice. She didn't have to. Just temporary, she'd always say. You'll get it back. But I never did. Then there was my sister Danielle, the golden child. She didn't work. She didn't need to. Mom covered her rent. Her nanny even co-signed the lease on a brand new SUV. She didn't know how to drive. Danielle used to joke at family dinners, sipping wine with a dramatic eye roll. Our sister's basically a walking bank account with Wi-Fi. Mom would laugh. Dad too when he was around. I never did, but I didn't argue either. I told myself, don't rock the boat. You're helping. But some days, I sat alone in my apartment with ramen and overdue bills, wondering what exactly I was helping them build and what it was costing me. A few years back, I finally asked Mom to repay part of the tuition I'd covered for Danielle's courses. Danielle dropped out after 3 months, but the invoice hadn't. Mom looked at me like I'd kicked a puppy. "Don't be petty," she said. "That's not how family works." And that was it. No discussion, just dismissal. But this year felt different. It started with the missing deposits. I had a system. I always knew what came in and out. But in the weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, something felt off. Transfers were happening too frequently, too cleanly, always rounded numbers. Then one night I saw it. $2,750. Grace Floral and Design. $1,900. Golden Fork. Catering, $1,230. Gracias Giving, Event Services. All of it from my account. She hadn't even tried to hide it. The transaction labels were practically monogrammed with celebration. That's when it clicked. Thanksgiving wasn't canceled, it was curated. I just wasn't invited. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone glowing in the dark. My room was silent, but I could hear their voices in my head. Danielle's laugh, Mom's high-pitched instructions to staff. This wasn't an accident, this was a decision, a private party funded by a public fool. But I didn't confront her. I didn't call or text. I didn't ask for answers. I started preparing. I pulled every financial statement I had, printed years' worth of transactions, highlighted every transfer to Mom, every payment she promised to return, every line of debt that wasn't mine. I built a spreadsheet line by line. Total amount, $82,600. I stared at the number until it blurred. Then I called a friend, Jared, who worked in compliance at a local bank, asked for a favor. Nothing illegal. Just help verifying ownership, legally, quietly. Then I met with a lawyer, explained the account setup, showed him the documents. He looked at me with one raised eyebrow and said, "You know, most people wait until things get worse." "This is worse," I told him. That night, I scrolled through Danielle's Instagram. She was already posting Thanksgiving vibes. A teaser. Gold centerpieces. A napkin with the letter M in calligraphy. The caption read, "So grateful for chosen family." My name wasn't in any comments, not even a tag. I kept preparing. I set the account to trigger a real-time alert if withdrawals crossed a certain threshold, uploaded screenshots to the cloud, locked my social profiles, and I set one final timer on my phone. The night before Thanksgiving, I lay in bed with that glow flashing beside me. I could hear them in my mind again, laughing, toasting, celebrating with money that wasn't theirs. But this time I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. Not because I'd get revenge, but because I'd finally stopped lying to myself. They didn't need me at that table, but they forgot one thing. I paid for the table, and I'd just decided I wanted it back. I arrived right before golden hour. No invite, no RSVP. Just me, my phone, and a quiet resolve that hummed louder than any live band. The rented villa stood tall on the coast, dressed in fairy lights and linen banners. From the road, I could already hear laughter. Polished, smug, the kind that bubbles up only when the bills are paid by someone else. I parked across the street, double-checked the lock on my car, and walked slowly toward the noise. Nobody noticed me at first. Then the hostess did, clipboard in hand, forced smile turning unsure. Can I help you, ma'am?" I didn't answer, just kept walking. The moment I stepped inside the patio gates, a wave of warm air hit me. Roasted turkey, expensive perfume, eucalyptus candles trying too hard. Dozens of guests in beige and gold sat at long tables under string lights. A string quartet played something pretentious. Wine glasses clinked. Phones clicked. It looked like a Pinterest board threw up. And right at the center, my sister Danielle stood in a gold wrap dress, hair in soft waves, her heel perched on the edge of a marble platform as she raised a glass. "Here's to found family," she announced. "The people who truly show up." Applause. Until someone noticed me. The music didn't stop, not yet, but the air shifted. Guests glanced around. Whispers fluttered. "Is that her sister? Was she invited? Wait, isn't she the one who—" Mom spotted me next. She was wearing cream silk, standing near the bar like a self-appointed queen. She didn't smile, didn't even blink, just stepped forward with her wine glass and said under her breath, "I told you we weren't doing anything this year." I nodded toward the massive centerpiece, a floral sculpture in the shape of a turkey, candles spelling out, "Thanks, Danny." I raised one eyebrow. "Then what's this?" Her jaw tightened. She leaned in. "You don't understand. You would have made it uncomfortable." And then, timing like divine comedy, the quartet stopped mid-note. Not faded. Stopped. One of the violinists lowered her instrument and pulled out her phone, confused. At the same moment, several guests looked down at their screens. Frowns. Buffering wheels. No music, no live stream, no Wi-Fi. Then a voice crackled from the audio booth. The hired AV guy. Sorry, folks. Looks like the payment didn't go through for continued service. We've been instructed to pack up. He gestured toward a woman wearing a headset. The event planner was already motioning her staff to begin folding tables. Danielle rushed over. Wait, what are you doing? Don't touch that food. The caterers ignored her. She spun back to the AV guy. You don't understand. This is my event. Then her face changed. I mean, our event. Thanksgiving, family, whatever. But nobody was listening anymore. Somewhere behind her, a phone camera clicked. Someone filmed the exact moment Danielle's voice cracked as she tried to stop a waiter from carting off the turkey platter. I watched a guest, some distant cousin maybe, upload the clip to TikTok right there. Mom stepped in front of me again, eyes wide, mouth stiff. Did you do this? I didn't answer. I pulled out my phone, the app still open. My name, listed as sole owner of the joint account. Access revoked, user removed, and ownership verified. Then I showed her one more thing. The chargeback receipt. Every payment they'd made. Floral, catering, decor. All disputed. All frozen. Her hand trembled as she stared at the screen. You're destroying this family. I finally looked her in the eyes. No, I'm just removing the scaffolding holding up the lie. Behind her, guests were quietly leaving. Some grabbed cookies. Some just grabbed their coats. A few whispered apologies as they passed me. I nodded to one or two. The rest I didn't know, didn't care to. Danielle stood by the buffet, devastated. Her perfect night shattered like a dropped champagne flute. You always ruin things, she shouted. You think this makes you better than us? I stayed where I was, calm, silent, present. I didn't need to yell, didn't need to defend myself. I was the only one there, not pretending anymore. Mom's voice cracked one last time. You'll regret this. We're still your family. I slipped my phone into my coat pocket, looked at her for a long second, then said, maybe that's the problem. And I turned and walked out. No dramatic exit, no slammed doors. Just one pair of quiet footsteps on marble tile and a family slowly unraveling behind me. It only took 2 days for the fallout to begin. The villa lights had barely dimmed, the floral arch barely disassembled, and by Monday morning, Mom was already trying to log into the joint account again. I got the security alert at 8:12 a.m. Unrecognized login attempt. Access denied. She tried twice more, then again from a different IP, then again at midnight. She didn't know I'd been preparing for weeks. The moment I saw the $5,880 withdrawal, I'd started the process. First, I contacted the bank. Then I had my name removed from anything that wasn't solely mine. Then I moved the remaining balance, every cent, into a new legal trust account in my name only, protected by both jurisdiction and firewall. And I didn't just close the joint account. I erased it. By the time she tried logging in again, the system didn't even recognize her email. The money was gone, at least to her. To me, it was finally safe. Tuesday afternoon, I got the first call. Mom's name popped up on my screen. I let it ring. Then came the texts. Please call me. Let's just talk. You didn't have to do that in front of everyone. It was just one dinner. That last one made me laugh. One dinner. That one dinner was built on over a decade of financial manipulation, of taking, assuming, expecting. That one dinner cost more than my first year of college. That one dinner had become a family tradition where I gave, and they celebrated without me. I muted the thread and let it rot in my inbox. The next morning, I opened my phone to a voice message. It was Mom. Her voice was low, cracking, trying to sound calm. I could hear the shake underneath. You didn't even explain. You just disappeared after everything we've done for you. This family, it's still your family. You ruined something beautiful. You hurt people who love you. I listened all the way through. Then I deleted it. No response, no anger, just silence. I wasn't interested in justifying myself anymore. Thursday, it was Danielle. A dozen missed calls. Then a message. I hope you're proud. My kids were crying. They were looking forward to that day. It was their Thanksgiving, too. You didn't just ruin it for me. You ruined it for them. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I typed. I was someone's kid, too, but you canceled my holidays. Year after year. Send. No reply. I walked into my apartment, still quiet, still undecorated, but finally peaceful. I boiled water for tea, sat by the window, watched the leaves fall. And I thought back to when I was 17 and skipped prom because mom said the car insurance was overdue. To when I gave up my first apartment deposit because she needed a bridge after losing her job, only to see her and Danielle on Instagram in Vegas 2 weeks later. To the birthdays she forgot, the Thanksgivings she postponed, and how every single time I forgave, explained it away, kept showing up. This time I didn't, and suddenly that was the betrayal. I thought about calling back, about explaining. But then I remembered what Mom said to me once, years ago, when I asked if she could repay the $6,000 I'd loaned her for dental surgery. Stop being petty. It's family. You don't put a price on love. Except they had. They put a price on my silence, on my absence, on the luxury of pretending I didn't notice. And when I finally did, suddenly I was the villain. That night I received one last text. It was from my cousin Jason. I hadn't heard from him in years. He'd been at the party, in the background, half invisible, like I used to be. I saw what you did, the message read. And I just wanted to say, I get it. Been watching it happen for years. You're not wrong. No emojis, no jokes, just solidarity from someone I didn't even know was paying attention. Sometimes the quiet ones are the loudest witnesses. I poured another cup of tea. No music, no scrolling, just silence. The kind of silence you earn. The kind that doesn't ask for applause. The kind that finally feels like peace. The next morning, I packed a single suitcase. No gifts, no chargers, no expectations. Just a sweater, a good book, and a plane ticket out. I'd booked the trip the night of the party, long before the fallout even began. While they were raising champagne glasses under chandeliers, I was choosing aisle or window. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even retreat. It was release. Ashwood Springs wasn't on any map I'd ever looked at. Seriously, the kind of town that still used payphones and cash registers. No traffic, no waiting lists, no curated lives playing on endless loops. Just air, clean, cold, uncomplicated. 3 hours and 2 connecting flights later, I stepped into the stillness like it had been waiting just for me. The trees whispered. The snow hadn't yet touched the ground, but you could feel it preparing to fall. A small bistro was closing up as I passed. Faded fairy lights flickered in the window. A radio played something old and soft, the kind of tune that didn't rush you anywhere. An old man in a wool coat tipped his hat with a nod that said, "You're not from here, but it's all right." There was no orchestra, no Instagram-worthy setups, no expensive wine chilling in marble buckets. Just silence, the rare kind that doesn't feel empty. My rental was a modest wood cabin perched near a frozen lake. It looked like it had held 1,000 stories and wasn't in a rush to add mine. No smart lock, just a brass key on a leather strap. The door creaked open like it was waking from a nap. Inside, pine wood walls, wool blankets, a fireplace that crackled like it missed company. I didn't post a tour, didn't send a location pin. I just stood there, breathing in a kind of quiet I'd forgotten existed. There was no centerpiece, no 12-person guest list, no special thanks to the event planner speech. Just one table, one chair, and one roast turkey in a preheated oven, ticking down on a $10 kitchen timer. I peeled potatoes, chopped green beans, laughed at myself when I dropped the salt. Soft jazz floated from a dusty radio in the corner. It sounded like it was trying its best, and that was enough. I set one plate, lit one candle, and slipped a folded note under the silverware. It read, "Holiday isn't about the crowd, it's about honesty." I didn't practice the toast, didn't rehearse what I'd say if someone called, because no one would. Not tonight, not really. I poured a glass of cider and sat down. Didn't say grace, didn't scroll through texts, didn't check who'd unfollowed me this week. I just cut into the turkey and took a slow bite. It tasted better than any catered meal I'd paid for. Better than the ones that came with stage lighting and fake laughter. Because this one didn't cost a piece of me. Then, right on cue, my phone buzzed. I didn't look right away. Let it sit there, face down on the wooden table, like a guest I wasn't sure I wanted to invite in. Eventually, I flipped it over. One notification. No punctuation. "You still have a family if you say sorry." I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered. Not over reply, over block. But I didn't press it. I just let the screen dim to black. Then I lifted my glass, leaned back in the chair, and said softly, to no one in particular, "To the ones who show up, even when they're not invited." No clinking, no applause, no forced smiles. Just that one candle flickering against the window pane, and behind it, the first snow beginning to fall. Tiny white flakes floating like secrets in the air. They didn't demand forgiveness, didn't ask for explanation, didn't need a reason to land. They just came, and stayed. I slept that night without setting an alarm. No dread, no debt, no pretending. Just the comfort of my own breath in the dark. The fire hissed low, the wind brushed against the windows like a lullaby, with no words. The next morning, I pulled on boots and stepped outside. The lake was still frozen, the bench at the edge dusted in snow. I sat for a while, drank coffee from a chipped mug, watched a fox slip between trees in the distance. Then, with a gloved finger, I carved a message into the frost-covered wood of the picnic bench. This year, I didn't give everything away. I kept one thing for myself. I didn't cry, didn't laugh. I just sat with the weight, or maybe the absence of it, and let it be. And maybe that was the real holiday. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but reclamation. A holiday without performance, without repayment, without price. Just peace. Peace I didn't have to earn, didn't have to prove worthy of.